Hey everybody, welcome back. I got sidetracked a little bit. I broke my hand, and as a result, we're not doing much mining today, but I do want to do a video that I've been planning on doing for quite a while, especially in light of the fact that I really have a lot of new subscribers who are my age or younger, who I think are probably finding themselves in the same boat that I found myself in 10 or 15 years ago, with nobody to help them. And so much of prospecting comes down to knowledge and experience, and if you don't have an old timer or a friend who has resources and knowledge to share with you, it can be really frustrating, and a lot of people quit because of it. So this isn't for the 20, 30, 40-year veterans. This is for the new guys, and I hope that maybe sharing some of my experience can help you along the learning curve. All right, so the first thing that I want to share that just is really simple and everybody should understand: long-range locators are junk. They're a total fucking scam. If you really want, check out Geotech's website. He tears them down, and just the amount of garbage, literal garbage, that are shoved into these things and then sold for thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars is just, it's offensive, and it's an affront to our humanity. Honestly, it's that bad. I have a quick story regarding long-range locators. Personal experience. Quartzsite, about 5 years ago, one of these salesmen came by, and we probably had 2 or 3 pounds worth of gold just in this ring of us that were standing around the fire as he was demonstrating this long-range locator. Not to mention however much gold was in all of our trailers parked right behind of us. We had all just been out hunting for the day. One guy had a 2-ounce nugget on a solid gold chain sticking right out of his shirt that the long-range locator guy apparently didn't even see with his eyeballs. The same guy had a nugget on his ring, which was also a gold ring. It failed to find a single piece of gold. We told him that at least one of us had gold in our pockets and to have his machine pick out which one of us it was. All of us had gold in our pockets, and he couldn't find a single one. Don't waste time on long-range locators. On that subject of nefarious business practices, some of these magazines that try to market themselves or present themselves as serious businesses or unbiased sources of reviews, like, I'm going to name names, the GPA rag, a lot of the reviews that you read in there are actually paid advertisements. So be careful. Be careful with what you read and do your own research. And on that subject, going out of the realm of magazines and going into the realm of the internet, if you look at a lot of reviews that are online and then you research the person who is doing the review, a lot of times you'll discover that that person is or has a business relationship with the company that they're doing the review for. How can you possibly be unbiased if you're doing that? You can't. And the reason that I say this, I speak from experience. I've had, and I won't say exactly how many or who they are, but major distributors and detector manufacturers contact me to do reviews. And while not all of them are this way, I will say that some of them are giving me the hard sell to be saying specific things about these items. And I have denied and always will deny those sort of reviews. So maintain vigilance. Don't trust anything you read. Do your own research. Nah, screw it. That's enough of the gutter. I changed my mind. Let's talk about something that I think is important and actually useful. And that is that I think that a prospector today has certain challenges that somebody 10, 20, 30 years ago didn't have, in the detecting arena at least. And that's that there just isn't as much gold available as there once was. Okay, so the first few detectorists who came along basically had a bonanza. Anywhere they were swinging, they were finding nuggets left and right. In their heads, or even on paper, they were writing down and making maps of where these finds were. So after 2 or 3 years of this, it was really easy to correlate this certain kind of gold with this certain kind of formation, or this certain type of gold with this rare occurrence. Like maybe you're only seeing like a diabase dike or a pegmatite intrusion, where above where you're finding nuggets. And so then it becomes really easy for that person who had already made those correlations to go and look on a geologic map or look on aerial photography, or just go out in the field and walk around old-fashioned style and find where all of these associations, correlations, and occurrences were that they knew came with the gold nuggets, and spend their time detecting there rather than a shotgun approach detecting every single bit of land that might have gold on it. Well, fast forward to the 70s, less of those leads are available, still quite a few. Fast forward to the 80s, even less available. Fast forward to the 90s, the introduction of pulse induction detectors, and it was sort of a new revolution where I think a lot of the fields had been hunted pretty heavily with VLFs, but then guys who were totally new to the game came in with these mine lab machines and were able to essentially open the gold fields all over again. And they were able to gain some of that knowledge that these old timers had just by finding all the nuggets that the original detectorists using the VLF detectors had missed. So there was a new generation of detectorists that started in the 90s who, in a lot of cases, are now considered old timers themselves, even though some of them are only 35, 40 years old. But these people had an advantage that you don't have today. I mean, I know we have newer machines like the GPZ, and this is just my opinion. I know people are going to lambaste me and say I'm a filthy, dirty American, and I don't know how to detect, and how dare I talk about Australian technology. But in my opinion, the GPZ is nowhere close to the groundbreaking level that the first pulse induction machines were. When you compare the first Pi machines to the old VLF machines at the time, the GPZ is not a big enough leap ahead of the new pulse induction machines like the 4500 or 5000 to reopen the gold fields in the same way that happened in the early 90s. So what does this all mean? Well, this is my point. A guy starting today or last year or 2 or 3 years ago really needs to be a much better detectorist and a much better prospector than did the guys in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, because you're missing a major advantage. You are not going to be the first person to swing a VLF detector over gold fields. You are not going to be the first person to swing a Pi detector over gold fields. And you're probably, even when you get somewhere you don't think anyone's been back there for 100 years, you're probably the 50th person to be back there. So what you need to do is make sure that you know how to run your machine well enough and how to look for the signs, the proper signs, and concentrate and direct your efforts and time on the proper places. You need to make sure that you do all of these things better than the last 50 guys that came before you. So here's an important point that I wanted to bring up. And this is actually a real important point to me because it's actually what caused me to make the decision to stop prospecting full-time, with a gold detector at least. With each nugget that's dug up by a person who is not you, that piece of information is forever lost. Forever. So for instance, there's places that I've found ounces to a pound of gold in one patch, and any person other than myself would drive right past these places or walk right over them and never even know that any gold was ever found there at all. And they would completely ignore the intrusive that's sitting 40 feet above it. They wouldn't even bother to inspect it. They wouldn't even notice that there's a vein, a very tiny 2-inch wide vein of quartz mineralized in that intrusive. And I got the ability, because I found that the patch originally, I had the ability to go investigate, spend my time investigating all these relatively benign occurrences and mark them in my head, and then make sure to look for those same occurrences everywhere else in that same area. But someone who's just starting today would come into this, they would walk right past this patch and nothing would look notable or remarkable at all. And so in a way, I've done a disservice to the new prospector, because unless I share the information of what I found and where, all it looks like is the same blank slate as the next 100 square miles over, where there is no nuggets, yet this one space did have nuggets. So the loss of information is really more valuable than the loss of the gold itself, because that's the information that a prospector uses to keep prospecting and to find more gold. And unfortunately, it's just disappearing at a really rapid rate today. So if you're thinking about starting detecting for gold, now is the time, my friend. What people call prospecting generally is not actually prospecting by the definition of the word. It's people going into a known gold field, having a couple beers, talking with friends, hanging out, and walking in the footsteps of the last 10,000 people who prospected that club claim. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of the best times I've had have been going out and just hanging out and having fun and not even really caring if I find gold or not. But that's not what this video is about. If you want to be a prospector who goes out and makes your own discoveries on a consistent basis, you have to leave the known gold fields, period. You need to learn how to actually prospect, which means being a detective of the earth, solving the mysteries that the earth has written for you. And not just the earth, being a detective of the people who have come before you, whether they were in the 1800s, the 1950s, or the 1990s. Keep your eyes and your mind open. Make observations always. And always try to correlate your observations to other observations. Draw parallels. Make connections. This is how you prospect. And I can make a video. This could be 10 videos just talking about this. So I'm not going to go any more in depth on how to actually prospect. Just know that if you want to be successful as a gold detectorist, you are going to need to learn how to actually prospect and leave the known gold fields. So there is one more important key here, and it's not just becoming really familiar with the field conditions, but it's also becoming very, very familiar with your machine. And what that means is that anytime you get a new machine, or if you're just starting with a new machine, before you go waste time in the field wondering if you're missing nuggets, you need to test every single setting and component. Know what it does and use it enough that you feel it. You can feel when something's wrong, or you can feel when something's different. You need to feel what your machine is telling you. The same way when you're driving your truck and your passenger can't tell, but you feel or hear just a tiny buzz and you know something's different. It's imperceptibly small, but you can feel it, and you alone. That's how you need to be with your detector. Make sure that you know how to run your machine as optimally as possible in every possible condition before you encounter those conditions. And yes, this does take a bit of practice. For any machine, expect to spend probably 15 to 20 days of just doing testing and hopefully finding some gold along the way. But your main focus is just testing that machine. And you can see this in my videos and my forum posts if anyone wants to dig up that long ago when I first bought the GPZ, and you can kind of follow along with how I did that myself. If you know how to operate your machine better than every other guy that came before you, then if there's a nugget left there to find that's within the capabilities of your machine, you're going to find it. A lot of times those nuggets are what make the difference between you finding something every day and your partner going 2 weeks without finding something and thinking that you're in possession of some kind of black magic or voodoo. Oh, one other thing too, on the subject of operators and machines. Avoid like the plague this kind of Ford versus Chevy fanboyism bullshit that causes people to have bias for one brand or one machine or another. It's in our best interest as prospectors to always be using the best machine for the conditions. And that kind of bias just creates this weird sort of echo chamber mentality online in a lot of cases that leads to people like literally attacking you or saying that threatening violence in private messages for merely reporting your own field observations. And that's extremely counterproductive, not only to them and the entire metal detecting community, but to yourself as a prospector. So as always, just keep an open mind with it and do your own testing. All right, everyone, I appreciate you watching, and see you next time when hopefully we're actually doing some real mining.
Now, y'all stay close here. Gonna have my jug band back here, and if Jasper don't let me strum the washboard, we're gonna resort to cutting.